Imagine the one person you've never been able to stand, the person who irritates you without trying, the one you disagree with on almost everything, someone whose voice alone can ruin your mood. Now imagine being trapped with that person, not for one afternoon, not for 1 week, but for months, even years. You sleep beside them. You eat from the same pot. You march the same road. You bleed in the same battle. And no matter how badly you want distance, there is nowhere to go. Most people would break after a few days. But for Roman soldiers, this was normal life. 8 men who never chose each other were forced to live side by side for years. And here's the shocking part. Rome believed this made them stronger. How can people who dislike each other become an unbreakable unit? Did forced closeness create brotherhood, or make life unbearable? The answer begins with one of the most overlooked systems in Roman military history, the Contubernium. The real foundation of the Roman army was not the legion, not the cohort, not even the century. It was the Contubernium, a group of 8 soldiers who shared one tent during campaigns and one barracks room in permanent forts. These 8 men cooked together, worked together, carried equipment together, and fought shoulder to shoulder in the same section of battle formation. Everything below the level of officers happened inside this tiny group. For most soldiers, daily life was shaped less by Rome itself, and more by the 7 men sleeping beside them. The word Contubernium came from Latin, and roughly meant tent sharing or barracks sharing, and the name was brutally accurate. Inside Roman forts, these 8 men occupied 2 cramped rooms, one room for sleeping, one for storage. Combined space was around 14 square meters. 8 adult men, in a room barely larger than a modern bathroom. Their armor, weapons, food sacks, personal belongings, sometimes animals, all packed around them. There was no privacy, no silence, no personal zone, and there was no escape from the men around you. Worse still, you didn't choose them. Rome chose for you. Centurions and officers assigned soldiers into Contubernia based on military usefulness. Veterans might be mixed with recruits, strong workers paired with weaker ones, special skills distributed where needed. Friendship was irrelevant. Personality did not matter. If you were 18 years old and joined the army, Rome could place you beside 7 strangers, and those same men might remain your closest companions for the next 25 years. Think about that. 25 years, longer than many marriages last, longer than many people stay in one career. A Roman soldier could spend more nights sleeping beside those 7 men than with his own family, especially on distant frontiers where he might not see home for years. So yes, conflict was inevitable. And it didn't happen despite living close together. It happened because of it. Every tiny human habit became a problem. Noise was constant. Snoring, talking in sleep, nightmares, coughing, turning over on rough bedding, the drunk soldier stumbling back late from a tavern, the man who had never noticed his own habits. At home suddenly became the reason. 7 exhausted men couldn't rest. Then there was smell. 8 men after marching, drilling, digging, sweating, bleeding, and wearing leather or metal gear all day, trapped in one room. Roman forts often had bathhouses, but access wasn't always immediate or daily. So each night the room carried the scent of labor, dust, wet clothing, smoke, and exhausted bodies. Food created another battlefield. The Contubernium shared a hand mill, cooking tools, and food rations. Someone had to grind grain, someone had to cook, someone had to clean, and this happened every day. If one man avoided work, everyone noticed. If one man cooked badly, everyone suffered. If one man took extra portions, resentment grew fast. Even payday caused tension. Roman soldiers were paid several times a year. And because these men lived so closely, everyone knew everyone's habits. Who saved money? Who wasted it? Who borrowed constantly? Who never repaid debts? The man who spent everything at the tavern on the first night often became the burden of the group. For months afterward, ancient writings like the Vindolanda, tablets even preserve evidence of debts and disputes between soldiers. Rome understood something important. It never expected soldiers to love each other. There is little evidence the Roman army cared about friendship. What it demanded was function. 2 men who hated each other still had to work together, still had to march together, still had to hold formation when arrows started falling. The centurion's job was to keep the group operational. He used pressure, punishment, authority, and sometimes reassignment. But moving a man to another Contubernium was costly. A soldier removed from one group entered another as an outsider. He disrupted one unit and unsettled another, so officers avoided it unless absolutely necessary. If conflict became violent, punishments could be severe: extra duties, loss of pay, beatings with the centurion's vine staff. But punishment only handled behavior. It did not erase hatred. That hatred still slept in the same room afterward. So how did Rome make this system work? Partly through discipline, but mostly through necessity. Inside the room, tiny boundaries formed naturally. Each man had his sleeping area, his storage space, his corner. These unwritten borders mattered deeply. Crossing them could trigger instant confrontation. The group also developed routines, rotating chores, shared responsibilities, mutual expectations. Two men who despised each other still had to grain together if they wanted breakfast, because hunger didn't care about personal drama, and neither did the centurion. Campaign life made this even harsher. On the march, the 8 men carried shared equipment: tent poles, cooking gear, hand mills, extra tools. If one man refused to carry his share, 7 others felt it immediately. And no one wanted extra weight after 30 kilometers in armor. Contribution was visible. Laziness was visible. Weakness was visible. There was nowhere to hide. Illness created another test. A sick soldier could not carry gear, could not stand watch properly, could not complete chores. He became dependent on the same men he may have argued with the day before, and those men had no choice but to help, because if one failed badly enough, all 8 suffered. Sometimes something unexpected happened here. The man you hated became human again. You saw his pain, his fear, his weakness, and hatred lost some of its certainty. This may be the most fascinating truth about the Roman Contubernium. It did not merely contain conflict. Sometimes it transformed it. Men who began as hostile strangers occasionally became fiercely loyal companions. Not because Rome ordered friendship, but because shared hardship changes people. The Vindolanda tablets hint at concern for sick tent mates, anger over unfair treatment, and jokes only close companions would understand. Shared suffering creates its own language, and battle changed everything most of all. The man whose snoring ruined your sleep might also be the man who held the shield line when everyone else was panicking. The man who annoyed you every day might be the one who dragged you from the mud while arrows fell around you. After surviving death together, old irritations could look very small. Not always. Some soldiers likely hated each other for all 25 years and celebrated the day they were discharged. But enough relationships transformed for it to leave marks in history. Roman tombstones sometimes show soldiers paying for the burial of former tent mates with their own money. That was more than duty. That was personal loyalty. A bond formed not by choice, but by endurance. The purpose of forcing Roman soldiers to live together was never friendship. It was trust under pressure. Rome knew that if 8 men shared hardship long enough, they would learn each other completely. Strengths, flaws, fears, habits. And once men know each other deeply, they can rely on each other in battle. That was Rome's genius. It took strangers, it trapped them together, it denied escape. And through discomfort, routine conflict, and survival, it forged solidarity. Now think about your own life. Has there ever been someone you couldn't stand, but were forced to stay around? Did time slowly build understanding, or did the distance inside you only grow deeper?